Well, all you had to do was write down a number, and you wrote Threve. Combination of 3 and 5. Simply stunning. And you wagered Texas with a dollar sign in front of it. I'm speechless. Mr. Reynolds.
Yeah, don't bother. I didn't write anything.
Good work. All right. Finally, Mr. Connery. The category was numbers, and you wrote a letter V. Well, I tell you what, my friend. V is a Roman numeral, so despite your best efforts, you answered correctly. Let's see what you wagered. Suck it, Trebek.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another week of Muskies on Tap. We're going to be bringing to you Michael Hansen here tonight. We just had a great interview with him, and he was back on episode, I think it was 21, back in September of 2023. If you guys want to check out the first time that we had him on, he's got more of his background and guiding info. You know, tonight we just kind of riffed about late season stuff, show seasons, you know, Bates looking forward to. I think we even touched on opener, which is pretty crazy to think about. This podcast will come out on February 1st. So already onto the second month of the new year. But before I get any further ahead, let's introduce the other hosts on here tonight. We got two other Mott Crew dudes here tonight. Let's first introduce Max Menti.
Pleasure to be here tonight, Gus. I always enjoy talking to Michael, so hopefully you guys will enjoy that interview. Had a great time riffing with him about some muskie fishing. A few pretty interesting topics tonight that we covered. A few nice little nuggets. I know you guys are headed to a road rules seminar on Saturday down in Mosinee, so that'll be good for you guys to link up and put on those presentations. I'm sure they'll go great. So, but I think what I'm most excited about here tonight is to have our golden boy back after a nice little hiatus, a little rest week, a bye week, if you will. He was out in the Golden State of California, living it up. So Brian, how you doing tonight? Back with a nice fresh tan. You're looking good, looking rested. You ready to go tonight?
I am fired up to be back, get out of that gloomy 70 and sunny weather in Cali. You know, I didn't think I would ever go to California, just not a whole lot there piqued my interest. But I will say I was pleasantly surprised. San Diego was very nice. Had a great little trip out there this past weekend. That sun and that heat, man. Suck coming back to that 40 degrees, cloudy, foggy. I mean, it feels like we're a long way from spring, but felt good to get some sun for a little bit. But yeah, excited to share this interview with Michael with you guys. You guys got into a little bit of ice fishing this past weekend. What went down there?
We were on the Norwegian beach real quick. I don't want to pivot here too quickly. I mean, any long walks on the beach in Cali, fall in love with any long blonde haired gal? Like, what was going on out there? Do you have a good time?
Yeah, that's a little business trip. Kept it professional, kept it a little profeshy.
Yeah.
Couldn't take any too long of walks. You know, they probably think I was lost. So yeah, had to stay in my lane a little bit, which was fun. It was good.
That's good. You didn't get in any fights, any hippies or anything like that. It sounds like you stay in your lane.
No, I keep my distance.
Had a kid.
Good to hear. Yeah, we were on the ice this last weekend. Had a great time. Had a big crew out on Saturday and Friday night. Gus, my dad, and I got out to do a little bit of fishing too. So it was a good little day and a half. I was happy to make it up there. And for whatever reason, Gus, I don't know what was going on. I think I saw it kind of across the board on Instagram and Facebook and whatever, but felt like a lot of big fish were caught this weekend. Do you kind of share that same sentiment?
Yeah, I definitely agree. It was finally, I mean, not finally. I mean, the warm weather went from stupid cold to now above freezing, but the warm weather definitely brought a lot more people out on the ice. The ice conditions were pretty good, little slushy, plenty for us to bring snowmobiles out. But no, it was great. We had the full moon. I think some of it might have to do with that, and I think a little bit. I was actually out a few times, like as it warmed up, or like those first days of warming up, and it wasn't great. So it might have been just like the stable weather, full moon. People were just catching mongo fish, big crappies, big walleyes, big pike. Max got his PB walleye.
Shout out.
Sheesh. You just shout out yourself?
27
Gotta
inch.
do it
Shout
sometime.
out.
Whoa.
Shout
27
out.
incher, which I mean, there's going to be some people out there like, I've caught a 31 3/4. And I mean,
Shout out.
we ain't,
Yeah, shout out
we
to those
ain't,
people.
we ain't walleye guys. So to us, that was incredible for an inland Wisconsin lake. That same night, we took a few walleyes home for a fish fry that we would later do on Sunday with the fam. Didn't quite catch enough for that in total, so we kept a pike on Saturday. We put a pretty good hurting on quite a few pike, Max. We fished a little bit solo, not solo, just the two of us before that big crew made it out. Sounds like they turned it up a little late the night before. They might have been hurting a little bit in the morning.
We
saw
were just
them
doing some scouting for them.
Yeah, we saw them around somewhere between 11 and 1 p.m., the next day. So, but they showed up.
Filtering out.
They
Yeah.
showed up, and we smacked some pike. Our boy, our good pal Trevor Barber, he got a beast of a pike, a 39 incher. I mean, I think we got shout out. We got 39 in the tape, but we're not great tape measures on the ice with those retractable tape measures. So
I love how Jeremy was like, man, when you guys laid down that tape, I was just praying it wasn't going to hit the 40-inch mark, so I didn't have another $1,000 taxidermy bill on.
Yeah, right.
So I think we could have squeezed a little more out of it. It was a pretty sizable fish for that neck of the woods. You don't see too many, upper 30s, lower 40s pike. It's not that you can't catch them; they're definitely up there, but it's not a few and far between. And
yeah, you don't get them every day. I mean, we don't ice fish a ton, but on these inland lakes, we don't really see that too often. It all depends on kind of where you're fishing, but sometimes we've seen not really. I mean, we've pulled some damn big pike out of lakes where like, where did that come from?
Yeah,
it's not always like
fishing.
Right. No, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, we had a blast there. Might take a little back seat a little bit. This weather's, I don't think, concerning for like horrible ice conditions, but I'm not jonesing to get out really, all the time. That was just a lot of fun to get some fish on the ice. It was kind of a rough start to the ice season, as everybody knows. But enough talking about the ice season, fellas. How about it? We get on the interview with Michael Hansen here now and bless the listeners with a great interview we just got done with.
Sounds good.
All right, guys, here on the line, we got Michael Hansen, who we talked to, I believe it was in September. And if I was doing my homework, I would have looked up the episode number, but he is from the greater Hayward area. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Michael, it's Namakagon Area Guide Service. Is that correct?
Namakagon.
Namakagon. Yeah, jeez. After all we
Can you
learned
spell
from the last
Schwamigan?
one. Maybe.
I can't.
I'm not going to right now live, but
I need to learn
might
it
be able
next
to.
year before I become a local. Can't
Yeah.
embarrass myself.
Have you guys seen the video that has like people from outside of Wisconsin trying to pronounce Wisconsin cities? Towns.
Yes.
Great.
Pretty solid.
Well,
Uh,
how are you doing tonight, Michael?
Oh, I'm doing great. Just had a short little trip out on the ice. I've been trying to bang some walleyes in new areas. I think that was like my seventh time ice fishing though this year, so I don't want to sound like I'm too hardcore. But yeah, now I'm just at home relaxing. Just had some homemade chili
Ooh, yummy.
and living the dream, I suppose. Waiting for this ice to melt.
It might be sooner than we think, potentially.
Yeah, this is absolutely crazy. And I feel bad for all the local businesses, but to not hear a snowmobile this year has just been like unreal. I've been walking out there too. It's just been like
Mhm.
nice just getting back to your roots and like not hearing anything and
It's good
doing pretty well
exercise.
too.
Good
Yeah.
exercise. I've done that. I've done it a few times this winter, walking out to places like a half mile or so, and whew, you gotta take off a few layers before you start walking. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely good for you. For all the standing we do in a boat, I mean, yeah, we're active, but I don't think we're that active.
No, we try to think that we are, but um, but anyways, for people who aren't really ice fishing and stuff, we can do a quick plug, Michael, of the Road Rules event that we're both speaking at and doing a seminar coming up this weekend. This will come out on the February Thursday,
I think it's the second or the third.
the first, and then the Road Rules event will be on the third, 2 days later.
Oh,
on Saturday. Or So the podcast Thursday morning, February 1st, Road Rules event, February 3rd, Saturday. I believe it's 10 to 4 at Sportsman's Repair Shop in Mosinee, Wisconsin. And I will be speaking and Michael will be speaking. So I'm looking forward to that.
what
It'll be
what's the
fun.
topics? What are the topics, you guys? What's the topics of your guys' presentations?
Max, do you want to lead it off on this one? Or Gus, excuse me?
Sure. I am going to do mine on so it's going to be on techniques that you can use with very popular baits. I'm not going to give it away because it's going to be for the people going to the events, but there's a few very popular baits out there that I use just like anybody else. And I feel there's some techniques and mods, a little bit of mods, not too many, in those that can help people put more fish in the boat. And I'll go through anything from what, typical rods and reels I use with them to when and where, like weeds or rocks, deep or shallow, spring, summer, fall. So that's what I'm diving into. What about you, Michael?
Nice. Yeah, I'm just I'm going to talk about maximizing your time out on the water. Especially in northern Wisconsin. A lot of folks that come up here are like the serious anglers are going to be up here maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yes, you do have people that come up here for weeks at a time, but typically if you're coming up here at a week of a time and you fish for muskies, you probably are coming up here with your family and you're going to do other things. So for the limited amount of time that people do get to come up here on a vacation and fish, I want to talk about maximizing your time as much as possible with techniques, baits, presentation, boat control, so on and so forth. So
yeah, that's very important because we got a lot of lakes in northern Wisconsin, and some people get a little overwhelmed if they're just coming for 2.5 days and they want to get on a pattern, So getting them in the right track, I feel like is really important, and just maximizing time. That's a big one. I'm looking forward to listening to that one. I'll be there for the whole thing. So
nice. I'm not going to watch your presentation.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No,
I won't tell you what time it is. Wait, what time is yours at again? Is it the first one?
I don't even know what time mine's at.
I'm sleeping
that's
in.
a great question.
I'm just kidding.
Information, but no, and that's what's cool about these events. Like, I don't care how good you think you are at muskie fishing, you can learn something new on water absolutely every day. And if you don't, I think you're absolutely doing it wrong. And this is just another way to, like, I don't know, when you hear three, who I would consider good sticks, Nate Osfar, one hell of a stick. listening to all these guys, and then you can kind of compare like, oh man, the stuff that I've been doing is kind of like what they've been doing. And that's great. That just, it makes you think about how good that was and how you can apply it to other areas or, learn something new. So it's definitely fun.
Yeah, that's going to be a good panel. I'm bummed that I won't be able to be there. Definitely would love to kind of listen in because I'm sure it's going to be a lot of good nuggets for people who attend. So if you guys are on the fence or you're hearing about it for the first time and you got an open Saturday afternoon, I'd highly recommend heading down to Mosinee and doing it. I'm sure we'll probably plug some details later on in the episode or whatever. But Michael, we brought you on here tonight. First of all, one of our few guests that have been reoccurring. So just want to give you a shout out there.
Right on.
You're coming back on and chat with us. But we really wanted to chat with you about this absolute tear that you went on towards the end of the year this year and how you kind of maximized this, ridiculously warm winter we've had and how you've used it to your advantage muskie wise. So I guess give us like a high level view on what your November and December looks like. And we can kind of dive in from there. But from all I saw on social media is you were running and gunning all over the place, sticking a bunch of nice fish, and just, to be honest, it was highly impressive. So yeah, give us the high level view on how those 2 months went.
Well, thanks for the kind words. And it's my true passion. So, a lot of my success has to do with as much time out on the water as possible. And I understand a lot of people can't do that. But everybody should know that, when you're watching social media and this and that, a lot of times you're watching, you could be watching a few full-time fishermen, whether they're YouTubers, fishing guys or whatnot, and you see the success that they have. It's time on the water. And then when it's all that time on the water, you're trial and erroring. You're looking at everything out there on a day-to-day basis to help put you in the best pattern possible. But it was an absolutely unbelievable fall. There were days where they should have went crazy and they didn't go crazy. And there were days where they absolutely shouldn't have eaten and we caught a 30, 35 pounder. So it was just time. Just go when you can. I don't care even if you have 3-4 hours, I was going out there every single day. I think I missed 2 days total in the month of November. I missed maybe 10 days in December due to holidays. And I did go walleye fishing out in Vermilion through the ice. I gave up on muskies and then I got warm again, and I should have never given up on the muskies, but had a great time pounding walleyes out there. So, it was just time out on the water. And, obviously live bait helped quite a bit too later and later as the season went on. I will say in December, though, when I went south, live bait was just more of a pain in the butt. I think I caught one fish on live bait down there. Other than that, it was a 100% casting program, which is always so cool. I wish those fish up in northern Wisconsin would do that a little bit better. I'm not saying they don't eat, but they definitely slow way, way down on their movements as far as their feeding patterns on artificials.
Gotcha. Right. Yeah, no, it was. Oh, go ahead, Gus.
Oh, I was just gonna, that's awesome. I was gonna maybe dive into one of those two, whether it be suckers or casting. We definitely want to ask you some questions there and give some stuff out to the listeners. So let's start with, how about suckers? So
I think last time we talked to you was on our Instagram live, our experimental Instagram live, when we were dragging suckers.
Oh, that was funny.
And I think we were asking you then how the hell to get these fish to eat suckers.
No, we were trolling.
I know. I was caught off guard.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden, I was sitting out in the boat by myself. I dropped my buddy off, who literally just caught a 35 pounder, and he said that he had to go. So I was out there. Oh, no, he was out there for the next bite, and I lost one that I don't know what it weighed, but it was really close, if not as big as his. It was huge. And then I accidentally, got on your Facebook or your Instagram live thing, which was quite funny. I was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna watch this while I drift around with some suckers. I was like, oh my gosh, am I live?
Yeah, we were about to hang it up because we've never used it before. We don't know what we're doing. Also, I'm like, oh, hold on, Michael Hansen's joining. We're like, oh, what?
I know you could just like join freely. I did not know how it works.
Yeah, well, I was there. It was cool. It was a nice little nice little pickup from where we left off last. So,
Certainly.
but yeah, about like the suckers. Every year it's different. Every day can be different, but the best pattern I had this year was keeping them up a little bit higher than what I normally do and keeping them moving relatively quick. I had multiple awesome batches of suckers this year. Like, I don't think I had any die in my tanks, which is just like a huge W if you were to ask me, because something always goes wrong every year. Whether you lose, 5 suckers throughout the year, or in my case, 3 years ago, I had a pump turn off and I lost 17 in one day. I ran
You just got your own aquarium at your crib, or what's going on? You're talking
Yeah,
about your tank.
between me and my good buddy, my brother-in-law, Robbie, we have 250-gallon cow tanks. And we have a homemade biofilter made out of a 33-gallon garbage. Gosh, why can't I say garbage can?
Oh.
And essentially, you have that water pump into the biofilter, and the biofilter is nothing but plastic. You can buy bio balls on Amazon. That's an easy way to do it. Otherwise, what I do is I go down to my local marina when they have all these scraps from when they winterize boats. You shove those sheets of plastic in there. You let that run for a couple weeks, and you slowly introduce fish into it, whether it be suckers, pike. A lot of times I'll start off with pike. And when they defecate in there, that good bacteria starts to form on the plastic, and it just creates an awesome holding tank for suckers. The only thing that sucks is if a pump shuts off or if it gets really, really cold, and then you're dealing with heaters. And there isn't a heater out on the market that goes below 60, I think it's like 67 degrees. So you have to match the correct amount of water to the outside temperature to your heater to make sure that you're not cooking these suckers overnight. It is the most stressful 3 months of my life.
You should get into the sucker breeding game. It sounds like you're close.
Oh my gosh. It has to be just like making musky baits. Everybody that makes musky baits doesn't fish anymore. So pick your poison. Yeah. I'm gonna just spend the $15 like a fool and eat like a peasant for 3 months.
Yeah, it's crazy. The freaking prices of suckers over the last few years has gone up so much. It's a tough investment, especially if you're not like getting fish to go on them on a daily basis. It's like you just know that you're going to be $45 in the hole, and you better hope to God that it's a big fish that eats one of those.
Oh, absolutely. I totally get it. I had a fall run. Honestly, I went 0 for 7 on suckers. Lost every single sucker. Lost every muskie. I had a string of bad luck in between everybody else hopping in my boat that came in there, which is how I like it anyways. A lot of times in November and December, it's mainly friends and family that hop in the boat. And as much as I love catching them, I'm a fishing guide, so I love seeing anybody that steps foot in my boat catch muskies, which is like, there's nothing cooler, in my opinion, than watching your talents help somebody else catch one, guide them.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree there. And with going back on the suckers, you said you're going fast. That kind of intrigued me. Do you remember like what speeds you're running?
I was running like a minimum of 9/10 of a mile an hour up to like 1.2. And I was doing that based on the suckers that I had out. If they could handle that and they were swimming, great. If they weren't swimming, they were really lazy, I'd switch that sucker out and I'd move that sucker into an area to where I want a lazy sucker. Because there are times I needed a lazy sucker if I went to a different lake where it was a different pattern. So, and that is crazy for me to ever think about going that fast. Crazy. I fish super slow casting, like unbearably slow sometimes. where I'll have people be like, "Why are we still fishing this?" Is like, I know there's one in here. We got to work every
Mhm.
single inch of this weed edge. And same thing with suckers. Like I've always gone so slow with them, and was just trying some different things and watching those fish react to it was something like, "Huh, you just have to bump up the speed a little bit." But
You
I think
said,
getting them up off their butts, because most of these fish are hanging down deep anyways. There's very few times where I drive over and see a fish suspended, unless you're out in Cisco-based water. But even then, I would say 90% of those fish out of Cisco-based waters were coming up off the bottom too. So they can see everything above their heads. As it got darker, I'd start to drop them down a little bit because it was a little bit harder for them to see.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's kind of how I approach trolling is kind of get some speed bursts in there, keep baits high. I mean, in the fall, I like to hit bottom, but still, run out a little bit deeper and keep baits up higher. But that's definitely intriguing to me because I did exactly what you used to do. I pretty much run suckers like painstakingly slow, like sometimes spot lock. And I always think that's like the natural approach. And then, I mean, now this is all kind of making more sense in my head. If you like have seen a sucker in the wild, they don't move slow. Like when
No,
you notice on the line, like they don't move slow when a muskie's on them too. And that's what will
absolutely.
trigger them. So going that speed? Another question I got for you is how much weight you putting on them and like what size
Again, it
sucker?
depends on the sucker, but
Yeah.
a lot of times I'm running like I like to stagger weights. I don't like just one solid piece of weight that creates kind of like an angle like this. I like it more of like, I don't know, rainbow, a J
Oh,
effect, whatever you want to
yeah.
call it. So, like on my snap itself, I would attach, which is typically I make all my own leaders, so they're all or all my own sucker rigs. So those all vary, but let's say it's 20 inches. So I'll put like a 3/8 ounce, sometimes a quarter ounce of just a bell sinker on a split ring that's attached to the actual barrel swivel on top of the leader. And then I'll run closer down to the bottom, I'll run like an ounce of rubber core. And then above that, sometimes if I need it, if it's a real cranky sucker, that's where I'll put on like a quarter ounce rubber core. And it just kind of goes from lighter to heavier like that. And that just allows that fish to kind of move a little bit more, but still get him back down there if he's being a little too cranky.
Sweet. So that is definitely interesting with the sinkers that you put on the rigs because I usually just run like a rubber core to, half ounce to an ounce or maybe even more. And I usually gauge it on how windy it is, but I think I would probably switch up my approach if I'm running them quick, making that like bow in the line instead of just like a straight, like the guy line going straight down. And then if you just have like all the weights in one spot, I kind of see what you're saying there. Does that
I'll do that a
minimize?
lot with tip ups too. I'll run a lot smaller lead shot up the leader,
Mhm.
and it kind of gives it that same deal. I feel like when they pull up on that one single anchor point, it just rockets them down in one area. Whereas like when they stop swimming, it'll kind of pull them more gradually. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's
Yeah.
what I think. I
That's
haven't got my snorkel on and checked it out myself, but
Tough that time of year.
yeah.
I wouldn't want to
Uh,
be down there.
quick question. I'm excited. We'll dive in tonight a little bit on kind of your your winter plans here and your 2024 season, but I don't want to move off of this kind of 2 month stretch here in November and December you had. And for all those, I guess, that are listening to this, it might be a good episode to to kind of replay maybe the beginning of next fall if you're going to be embarking on some November and December adventures. But when so obviously you were running and gunning this fall, were you targeting pretty much, obviously you caught some large fish. So were you just targeting some of the bigger systems, clear bodies of water, or did you kind of continue to mix it up like you usually do? Or were you just kind of targeting one specific type of body of water in November and December?
I would stick on a certain body of water if it was spitting out fish.
Okay.
And there's times where that wouldn't happen, or you'd have action from fish 6 7 days in a row. That's hard to leave. But a lot of it too is just checking out new bodies of water, ones that we've casted during the summer and wanted to always just try it in the fall. You just don't know until you go. And don't leave fish to find fish. But if you feel good about a body of water can contain big fish, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot by not exploring a little bit, not learning something new, stepping outside of your comfort zone, because, being a musky fisherman, you're uncomfortable pretty much all the time. But there is a level of comfort that you get out there throughout the day that makes you feel good about what you're doing and how you're doing it. But I just felt it was just important to move around and go to known bodies of water that can support big fish. I'm not knocking against small fish, but especially in November and December, if I don't have clients, or if I do have clients and they trust me, I want to go for the biggest, baddest fish if that means that we may get a bite a day. So, yes, there's times where I was stuck on a certain body of water. In fact, the body of water I lost 7 fish on in a row. I stayed out there. I went out there the last day before it froze over by myself. My brother-in-law wanted to go somewhere else. I really wanted to go check that out with him. And he absolutely pounded them too, by the way. He pounded them. And I just had it out for this particular body of water that it beat me. And I have this mentality that I just don't ever want to be beat. So I went out there, and what I immediately sent to my buddies after I caught my last big fish of the season my second last big fish out in northern Wisconsin, I just texted my buddies immediately, like, I defeated the lake. Like, I won.
It's a good
feeling. That's just how it felt. Like, I went through inch and a half of like solid clear ice that and it was below freezing all day, and I just knew that was going to freeze up. And I caught that fish so late that I was actually like freaking out, like, what if that ice got thicker and I'm just stuck out here? Because like I would have been just so stuck. The launch at that particular lake, you have to go through a real windy, narrow channel for a long time. But yeah, I'm kind of getting off topic here. Just going out and exploring new waters is what's made me who I am already today. And I'm not going to stop driving to new bodies of water, even though I'm on fish. If I'm not getting paid to take people out fishing, I'm going to go learn something.
Yeah. Oh, I don't blame you. It's hard to freeze your ass off for, a 30, 33, 35 incher in November and December. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I don't blame you for targeting some of the bigger, larger water, or types of bodies of water that support that. And like we've talked about this too, even internally with like our fall trips or late fall trips. It's a good time sometimes to explore that time of year, just because it feels like not to sound weird about it, but it does feel a little bit easier to find the fish at times in the late fall. Like, feels like they pull out of the cover, and you can look at your kind of traditional Navionics or lake map and not have too hard of a time finding out where these fish are probably staging. So are there any specific, I guess, areas that, if you were looking at a lake map for a new lake, or maybe a lake that you fished in the summer, you talk, okay, yeah, we casted this lake in July, but it would be great to come back and fish it in November. What about that lake made you want to kind of come back, or what are some of the areas that you're looking for late season that would, I guess, set up well for a November or December bite?
I think a lot of those is we saw some really nice fish.
Yeah, sure.
And even if it was just seeing glimpses of them, we could just tell it was like, man, this is something that we have to go check out. But that's pretty much it, unless if there's, man, how do I say it? If I know it's going to be an area that doesn't get hit that hard, I definitely want to go check it out in the fall, because it receives little to no pressure during the summer. I shouldn't say no pressure. There's so much pressure on every body of water now, but you may have pressure on it during the summer, but not nearly as much as some of these lakes that are really, really close to Hayward. Those are just busy, busy, busy. So it's kind of nice to go over to those less busy bodies of water that you know of during the summer because you're going to see the same thing in the fall. A lot of people are shooting deer that time of year, and I love eating those things, but I've never attempted to shoot a deer, and I'm not going to start now. It's my favorite time of year to be out on the water.
It is a good time of year. We've had a lot of really fun late fall trips. I just, and I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, we've gone to new lakes in the fall, and obviously the grace of live scope and side imaging and whatnot, you can pull up to a spot, and whether they eat or don't eat it. We touched on this, I think, in our last podcast in September, but it's like, it felt really, not easy per se. Like we still had to kind of explore, but like in the fall, late fall season, it's like, okay, these fish are going to be hanging most likely off the breaks, steep breaks, at the end of long extended points. And I guess I don't really know the question here, but it just seems like it's kind of a good time of year to like say, okay, I'm going to go try this body of water because I feel like I know that it has big fish and I feel like I kind of know where they're going to be. And then obviously in the fall, you're talking about speeding it up a little bit, but it's a little bit easier time to kind of camp ish on those spots or keep running them. If there's limited pressure, you don't have as much competition for other people. You're not worried about people sliding in on the spot or anything like that. So yeah, I agree. It's a great time to fish. I love it. It's definitely my favorite time of the year too.
Yeah. And and don't get me wrong that the fish that I defeated the lake on, quote unquote, I camped on that fish for I think 3.5 hours. I knew it was my last day out there. I saw it on live imaging. It looked huge. It ate the sucker. It spit the sucker. 2 passes later, came back up, ate the sucker, spit the sucker, and like was freaking out. And called my brother-in-law, and he's like, "You should just stay there." Because me, normally I would move, and then I tried to come back and hit it. And I was like, "Man, you're right. I'm just going to sit on this thing." And sure enough, she came back and ate. So there's a time and place for everything. But, if I do go to new lakes, I should say this too. Like, I'm going to look at a map based on the spots that I was doing real well on the lake that I just left. And I'm going to try to mimic those same areas. If the fish are on rocks, deep rocks, I'm going to look for deep rocks. I'm going to go to every little point out there until I find deep rocks. And if I find those deep rocks, that's going to be on one of my number one spots, if they're on deep rocks or if they're in deep weeds, so on and so forth. So I just do a lot of piggybacking off of what has been working and hopefully apply it to a similar body of water.
Would you say between these two structures, do you have more success on shoreline drops or mid-lake structures? Whether it be like a just basic shoreline pretty close to the shore or like a point extending off it, and then compared to mid-lake.
It's almost like 60-40, maybe 55-45. I would say the greater number being mid-lake stuff, and the other stuff could be shore or close shore spots. I will say this on a lake that I hit pretty regularly when it's good. I was hitting so many new spots out there that I didn't even have 100% confidence in. Because like what you said with live scope and side imaging, it's kind of cool to see if these fish are there or not. Just by running a sucker going 0.7 of a mile or 1-2, wherever you need to be. I couldn't tell you how many fish we saw in just the most random, basic looking spots you'd ever seen, whether it's like a 2-foot, rise, let's say it's 14 feet of water and surrounding it is like a 16-foot basin of nothing. They were on that. We'd go to a generic weed edge that drops off really tight. They were all over that, marked 2 of them. And it was crazy how many fish I saw in a lot of the bodies of water that I hit a lot that you just didn't really realize just how many fish are actually in there, which gets me to think, it kind of goes back to what I've been saying for a long time. And I know others have said this too. These fish are super duper smart. They are not dumb animals.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what was that? What was that thing, Max? I know I mentioned it to you that one time where there was a study that showed muskies are like 90 or 95% effective hunters, which is like stupid incredible. Like it's almost like if they don't eat
Yeah.
or miss a bait, they're doing it on purpose. It's something like
Yeah.
that. I'm gonna get the numbers wrong. It was on a podcast or a study online or something like that. And which is just crazy. They are smart, big and smart. And
I think a lot of times when we get bit by muskies, especially casting, those fish want to eat.
mhm,
No matter what, that's like they want to eat. There's very few times where you can persuade a fish that doesn't want to eat into eating. Yes, I know there's some tactics boat side that you can do, or as you're reeling your bait in closer to the boat, you can do directional changes and stuff that can help get that fish to eat sooner. Um, I believe most fish, when they want to eat, they want to eat.
mhm,
Period. And it's not the other way.
Yeah. Well, if you screw it up and the fish may want to eat, but maybe give away that you're just throwing a hunk of plastic,
Yeah.
somehow, if you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing or whatever, if there's plenty of times I know I've screwed up fish, where it felt like there was no chance that the fish wasn't going to eat. And then you just do something, obviously you're never going to be perfect and the fish figures it out. And it's like, yeah, that fish does want to eat, but you as an angler just did something wrong and kind of
Well,
dissuaded them.
even
Yeah.
if you do something wrong, I mean, we've seen so many times where your bucktail's kinked out or you bring in a bait full of weeds and like that fish probably saw the bait before you hit the weeds, before your bait got tangled and you retrieve, and it's still just seeing red on it coming into the boat. So
True. Yeah.
if they're in a big feeding window, I mean, they're not going to
mm.
stop.
Right. Yeah, no, that's true. All right, well, let's put a bow on some of the 2023 stuff here and then we'll move on to all the good things ahead of us here in 2024. Give us some highlights though. We've kind of generally talked on some big fish, but give us the goods. What were some of the big highlights from the November and December timeframe for you?
As far as big fish goes,
Yeah, obviously, we
all
love hearing about the big
right.
fish.
Oh boy. Gosh, trying to think of the dates off the top of my head, but it was like mid to late November. I think my good buddy Dean out. He nailed a 49 and a half by 23 and three quarters
Come on, with it.
on a sucker. It had
Yeesh.
brand new spot. That fish was so thick head to tail. It was just like it was the perfect animal. And it had a small head too. A lot of the big ones that we get around here have really large melons. And when I looked at that fish, I was just like, God, you're gonna keep growing. Like you might actually make it over 50 inches. Like
What
this
what
is
lake was that?
exciting. Like
Nice
so
fish,
cool.
comma. What lake?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Figured I'd just make sure.
Great axe. Oh boy. And then yeah, later that day I lost a big one. And then the next day I was telling my buddy Dean, I was like, we got to get your girlfriend out here because everybody's got to catch a big muskie, or everybody's got to catch a muskie. This girl has never been out muskie fishing before a day in her life. And she nails a 49 and a quarter by 23 and a half.
Dude.
So it was incredible for those two to each have a giant. My buddy Dean actually told his girlfriend before they went out that if she caught a bigger one than he did the day beforehand, she was going to buy a mount for him. And man, I'm sorry, Rick, you just missed out by a quarter of an inch. Otherwise, that puppy was coming to you. But yeah, that was cool. And then my last 2 days in northern Wisconsin, I was lucky enough to catch a pair of 49 and changes. Both of them were really thick. I believe one of them was like 23 and three quarters. The other one was like 22 and a half. But it was back-to-back days. Got to touch a couple beauties, one out of dark water, one out of clear water. My brother-in-law did catch a 50-incher out of my boat this year on a sucker, which was really cool. But the amount of 48 to 49 inchers this year was just unbelievable. Yeah, it didn't hit that stupid 50-inch number, but every time I look at those things, I was like, man, if it ain't 50, it's so close, and I don't even give a rat's ass because that thing looks so flippin' cool.
Yeah.
Man, I just remember just getting so excited. I
Yeah.
almost threw up a lot this fall.
Yeah.
A lot of dry heaving. A lot
Yeah,
of pacing around, doing circles in the boat. Like, it was a lot of fun. So, hope to do that every year. You know, that's what we strive to do. But everyone that does enter the boat, it's always a blessing. And just look for the next one.
Yeah, I guess I'll leave it with this. I mean, the one thing I do truly love about sucker fishing, and I know some people, have mixed thoughts on it, but we're out there for the enjoyment, and there's nothing more fun than when you're just, whether you're talking with your buddies or your cast or whatever, you're sitting on the boat and all of a sudden that clicker starts to go. And, if you don't see the fish or whatever on any electronics, like it just kind of comes out of nowhere and you got no idea what's on the other end of that line. It could be a 34-inch pike and it could be the biggest fish of your year, at that time of year. You don't really know what's about to happen. And
Yes.
just go and you lay down, you lay the wood on that thing and you hope to God that it's, fishing.
Dude, it's the best feeling in the world. It's great. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, like what, catching them casting is always going to be my favorite, but I can't say that trolling live bait is a very close second, third. I mean, they're right there because like what you said, your heart just goes bananas when you hear that clicker go off. It's kind of like me seeing a tip-up flag. Even after all these years, you see that flag go off and your heart's just racing. It's like, oh, is it a walleye or is it a pike? But either or.
You don't know. And, especially when you set the rod on the sucker fish and like you jerk back forward, you're like, oh, yeah, this is a good one.
Oh, gosh. Dude, that one that Paula caught, my buddy's girlfriend, like, I have a picture of this rod doubled over. You can barely see it because we're in the way of it, but you can, like, see the reel pointed up at 11 o'clock, and this rod is 6 o'clock. It was the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. Her heels come up off the ground, and I just lost it. I was losing my marbles. It's the only time I think I've ever pulled up a trolling motor on a fish.
Oh, wow.
It was a total ass kicker.
Yeah, they fight in that colder water, too. Like, I think they can really start fucking pulling you around a little bit.
I feel like
they
if you don't,
and I'm pretty guilty. If you've ever seen me set the hook on a sucker, I'm pretty greedy. I set the hook and I reel like a freaking raped ape. I feel like the longer they're on there, obviously they can come off. I like seeing these things. I don't get to catch a whole lot of them throughout the year, especially sucker fishing. So, I want those things in the boat. So I reef them in. It's pretty bad. I just manhandle them.
I agree with that, honestly. I tell everyone to just start reeling immediately. That drag's locked. You start reeling. You never know. Even if you just have the hardest hook set ever, locked drag, there's a chance that fish is locked down so hard on that sucker, it still didn't get hooks. And you can bring it in. And it's thrashing. And I know, I'm sure you already know. And you could still bag it right there. And that's why what Max is saying, it's like, I feel like when these fish come up on their initial head shakes on top of the water, you can land them quick. But if you don't land them there, then they go right back down. And then it's really hard to bring them back up.
Yes. When you're by yourself, which I was a couple times this year and had some big ones on, then you're at the mercy of it and you're just praying the entire time. You're losing it. You're excited. You're scared. You're sad. You're happy again. It's just like, it's such a crazy whirlwind of emotions. But, you gotta net this thing now by yourself, and that's never easy. So you gotta be cool. One tip I'll give people that fish by themselves, because there are people that fish by themselves, and that's important too, because I feel like you learn a lot there. But take your time. So many people grab that stupid net, and then they like, that's the first thing that they'll grab, and then you watch them set it down. Then they'll grab it again, and they'll set it down. It's like, get control of the fish, then grab the net.
Oh yeah.
All right, so good little recap there. I was glad to talk to you about that because, like I said, we followed the escapade along social media. When you did post stuff, I was always like, God, dude, freaking Michael's out again today. That's so
Yeah.
awesome. Guys just fucking putting the pedal on the floor. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
Gus and I got out a decent bit. I know Gus obviously was hitting it really hard this fall as well. And, I went up to I guess the cabin or, where Gus lives to do some ice fishing over Christmas. And we touched on it on one of our podcasts, but like we were out trying to catch walleye for dinner and like it was pouring rain. It was like 41 degrees. There's holes starting to form in the ice that we didn't drill. So we're like, well, screw this. Like, we're not going to risk our lives for some 13-inch walleye.
Yeah.
And we called up our buddy who had his boat, not winterized yet, and ended up getting a few extra bonus days in end of December, and ended up catching some fish, and it was a blast. But I know that you touched a little bit last time we talked to you in September that you do a trip. I think it's down to Tennessee with your buddy Willen. Are you doing that again this winter?
I haven't made any plans to, but most of the time when I do go anywhere, it's so last minute where like we'll just all of a sudden be talking. Like, I don't know, Will and I talk almost once a day now. Sometimes, once every couple days or whatnot, but all of a sudden we'll be like, yeah, I'm not busy. Weather looks good. Come on down. And I'll check to see what I got going on, which a lot of times right now isn't much. Yeah, and then I'll go. That's kind of how my trip down south in December really panned out well for me. After I went walleye fishing mid month there, I went down there with the expectation of staying down there for 3-4 days, and I just never left. It was hard to leave fish. They were biting, and it was like, man, this is crazy. I've never caught one casting on Christmas Eve. Caught one casting on Christmas Eve, and then I never caught one casting on Christmas. Oh, caught one casting Christmas. It was like, how do you leave this? I must stay. I lost an absolute tanker on the 30th. That sucked.
Oh,
and I was casting a blunt nose glider down in southern Wisconsin with a good friend of mine, and it was a beefcake. It was a nice one. Wish I could have had that one back, but it was a killer glider bite.
Any guesstimates on what that one was going to go, you think?
47, 48.
Okay,
it was a big one, and that one absolutely kicked my butt. And the bites in December, gosh, they made me want to throw up. Like you'd be working your glide bait back, and you'd be like, oh man, I hit bottom or I hit wood, because I was working these things super duper deep, like 8 to 12 feet down. Really slow, and all of a sudden you'd pull back and you'd just be like, oh man, I'm snagged, and you'd be pulling on it and there'd be nothing, and then you like reel down and you pull back into it and you're like, holy piss, there's a muskie there. And that muskie is doing nothing for the most part. Most of them came in just like 2 or 3 head shakes and just swam right at the boat. That's how cold the water was.
Yeah,
that's great. I know I didn't catch one casting in December, but I think it was November 30th I was out. It's my latest casting fish ever. I let a tube sink to the bottom. I gave 2 pops, and then I thought I got snagged because we were casting at a point with cribs on it, and I slackline popped 3, maybe 4 times and just went pop, 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 and I'm like, oh shit, there's a fish there. Like it wasn't big, but it was just like, it must have just grabbed the tube and just sat there. And I'm just sitting there reefing on it like, dang it, get off that freaking crib. And like, oh, it's moving. Oh, boy.
Man, that thing's not going to bite a lure for like the next 15 years. You got 4 hook sets at one time.
That was pretty
Still
funny.
concussed.
That was funny.
Oh.
So the gliders were good, huh? Did you use big gliders or small gliders?
Small. I was using the blunt nose glider. Chaos makes that. It's not a big glider. I think it's like 5 3/4, maybe 6 inches. Little squirrely tail on the end, but it's a heavier glider. Like I said, I was working that thing really slow, and that thing was coming in anywhere from 8 to 12 feet down, and I had to get it down to their level that time of year. Just like I said, that water was freezing, it opened, it was freezing, it was open. Like typically when those lakes freeze over, or systems bodies water, I should say, it's very hard if it does open back up to get those fish to eat again. It's like the light switch finally turns off. Not saying they don't eat, but it's like a total difference from when they were chowing right before the end of season to, whenever that lake opens back up. My brother-in-law did defeat that though this year. He got 48.5 in the Hayward area on, December 27th. That is flipping wild. Flipping wild.
That's insane.
I'm deeming that the biggest targeted muskie caught in northern Wisconsin.
Right. Because,
with
taking
the new rule
fishing.
change.
Yeah.
Like nobody else had been fishing for him.
Right.
Nobody's fished for him that late.
What was the day I lost my big one on, Gus? Was that what day was that? Was that
27th? Because we fished the 26th and 27th.
Yeah, that was late too. So that was on the same day that Robbie caught one. I caught a 45 that day in southern Wisconsin.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Did you notice real quick? I guess we'll just dive back into actual muskie catches here recently. Did you notice that we did when we were fishing in December, the bite windows were absurdly tight. Like, so when we went out and we had a 2-fish day, but it was 4 bites, and 2 of the fish came, like literally one of them was casting, and we just had gotten done we had suckers going behind the back of the boat, and like we just caught one casting, did the whole pictures, release, whatever, and it was like within, I don't know what, Gus, 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, that one was like 5 minutes. Yeah.
And then caught it. And then all of a sudden, so we had 2 fish in the boat in like a span of 6 minutes. We're like, oh, this is insane. It was like, I think December 26th or whatever it was. We were freaking out, and hours go by, nothing. And then we're just out in this like very unassuming like part of the lake, and all of a sudden one fish like sharks on our buddy's glider, and he had it hooked for like, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 seconds and got off, or whatever, maybe 5 seconds and got off. And then like, as we're talking about it, like that fish, like, I don't know how the hell he got off. Like it was hooked. Well, our other buddy's like not paying attention, and boom, he gets slammed on his crankbait. And those are our 2 bite windows of that day. Like it wasn't moon related or anything really. It was just like, it felt like, no matter where you were in the lake, as long as the fish were obviously around, like those are the only 2 times that they were going to eat. And then the next day that we fished, it was like high bright skies, kind of high pressure, low wind. We kind of felt like there was I think it was either a moonset or something like that was happening, correlating with sunset. And we're like, we probably won't get a bite until like right at this like tip of this major. And sure as shit, like we were around fish the whole time. We saw them on our electronics all day. None of them were even moving. Like they wouldn't even entertain the idea of coming up and eating a sucker or like looking at a bait. And it was like right when that moon phase kind of hit its like peak, sun dips below the trees, like the fish just fires off the bottom and annihilates the sucker.
Oh,
and
cool.
Unfortunately, we missed that one due to some equipment failure. But yeah, it was.
It was that like, when the rod broke?
Well, yeah, we were
the bamboo rod.
Shout out, Jared.
Something that should be above your door.
Yeah,
a nice light on it. No,
that was
he caught like a mid. I think he caught like a low to mid, if I'm not mistaken, 40s tiger, like a couple of weeks prior, like late November, and maybe
that was it. That's all she had left in her. One more nice tiger.
I guess that's why.
That's badass though.
I mean, we didn't have like really much, like you gotta, like we packed everything away for the season, right? So like we were working with like minimal baits, minimal equipment, all that shit. And so like we were using this bamboo rod, and I remember like earlier in the day we had a pike eat one of our suckers, and I took that one, and it was like a 30-inch pike. And I, set it, whatever, fought at the boat, shook it off. I was like, all right, whatever. And I remember I told Gus, I was like, dude, if a muskie eats this rod, because we had the bamboo rod and then we had our one sucker rod we still had. And it ate, obviously the big fish ate the bamboo rod one. And I told Gus, I was like, if a muskie eats the bamboo rod, like, I don't know how that's going to work. Cause like when I set the hook on that pike, that thing like doubled over and like I could barely move like a 30-inch pike. And so shout out Jared if you're listening to this, huge beauty, and let us come out on his boat for another day. So it was a lot of fun regardless. Good lessons learned all around for all of us. Just like,
hey, equipment failure happens, especially that late in the season. I've had it with everything, so everything imaginable.
Yeah, and honestly, on that fish too, like, when the rod snapped, I went down and started grabbing the line because I'm like, well, shit, I just laid into this fish. And when I grabbed the line, like there was nothing. And actually the crimp also failed. So hindsight, no matter what rod we had, it wouldn't have mattered.
Sure. Yeah.
that sucker leader broke right in half when I set into it. So it was just all around an implosion. And that was the ball in our season. So anyways, I guess what are some things that you're looking forward to here? I mean, knock on wood, it sounds like we're going to have an early ice out by the looks of it. I mean, just from the lack of ice that's on the water right now.
Yeah.
It shouldn't really take much for some of these bigger lakes and smaller lakes to even start to open up. So, what are you looking forward to here in 24? And I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if I can sneak down south, whether it be Tennessee, Indiana, Iowa, I'm going to do something like that. It'll just be a game time decision, kind of based on weather and all that. But so I'm hoping to do something like that. Other than that, cannot wait to go smallmouth fishing. Holy smokes. I'm not a great smallmouth angler by any means, but every year I'm getting better and better. And this is like ice out to the opener, muskie opener. I am all about smallmouth for the most part. And I always joke about it. It's fun to actually go out and catch a lot of fish and feel good about yourself. And then you go muskie fishing and you're right back to just wanting to like stab yourself some days with anything.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm most looking forward to. In the 24 season, I'm really looking forward to getting up to Minnesota a couple more times, but not a whole lot. I definitely love my northern Wisconsin way too much to ever leave it for a prolonged period of time. But I'm just hoping for another successful year. I'm hoping for a lot of wind this summer. Last year in the summer, I thought in general, it was some of my better numbers ever recorded. But a lot of small fish, and I think a lot of that had to do with the bigger lakes not getting warm due to the lack of wind. So that's what I'm really hoping for. I love big wind. I love fishing in it. It pushes a lot of the people that are afraid of wind off the bodies of water, and ultimately gets the fish just amped up. So if I could wish for anything in 2024, it won't be more muskies. There'll be more wind and a little bit of heat to go along with it. So
I don't know if you got Max on board for that. He's the wind hater of the group.
Oh man,
certified.
I love me a good wind.
Is that okay if I say that, Max?
I'm in the same boat.
Just based on our fishing and golfing adventures, if there's
good for nothing.
There's a breeze up there. You're like, God, come on.
Dude, I'm not good enough of a golfer to blame anything on the wind. No, it's never the wind's fault. But
I'm just a social guy.
Don't get me wrong. There's times where I'll get real pissed. I mean, I can get really mad over something like the wind pushed me 5 feet in the wrong direction because my spot lock turned off for like 3 seconds, and I'll lose it for like a solid 10 seconds, and I'll go, all right, we're back on the weed edge. We're good to go.
Yeah, I'm just a social guy. I love the boat banter. When that wind's whipping, everyone's got their hoods up, and all you're listening to is your freaking Sims Solar Flex banging in your ear for the next 3 hours. So that's my only beef with it. I don't disagree that fishing in wind definitely improves your chances. Like, there's nothing worse than when you're just sitting out on the boat at 1 p.m. and it's dead flat, calm, high sun. You're just like, I mean, I'm sure for you guys as guides, like you're probably just looking at your customers like, well, let's just say a prayer right now. Like it's going to be tough here for the next few hours, but
well, and that's why I run a lot of longer trips too. Cause like that way, like, let's say start at 9, and I plan on fishing till 9, 10, 11 o'clock. Like if it gets really hot and these fish aren't moving, I will implement a 1 to 2 hour nap time in the shade. Just like, hey, you're gonna get your 8 to 10 hours, and don't worry about that.
Yeah.
But like, it ain't happening right now, so let's not kill ourselves. So when we do get to the good part of the day, we're dead. Like, we don't want that. So
I think on the website I'm gonna add a segment or something for full day, like big full day trips, 2 hour nap optional added in there.
Yeah, don't
after
say
lunch.
optional, because and then it's up to them. You have to say, like, based on the captain's decisions, a 2 hour nap period may be implemented.
Mandatory
Post
sleep
lunch.
time.
Post lunch.
Yeah, that's funny, man. Yeah, no, that smallmouth stuff's fun. We got into that last year. Gus can probably touch on more of that, but yeah, those fish, like, they can put up a good fight, and they're beautiful. And the Northwoods of Wisconsin definitely has some lakes that hold some dynamite smallmouth fishing. It's a good way to kind of bridge the gap and ease back into the muskie season a little bit.
It's just fun, just to mix it up. I honestly, I mean this. If I chase muskies 12 months out of the year, I know there's a very few amount of people that actually do that, and hats off to them. Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I can handle the extended seasons that I've been putting myself through, 7-month season, whatever, sometimes a little bit more, but need to take a break too. Or at least a guy like me, I need a little bit of a reset time and go catch some either giant bluegills or giant smallmouth. I love doing that. So
yeah, I think you earned some rest this winter from what it sounds like. And are you going to be? I know obviously you guys are talking at the Road Rules event here next weekend, or this weekend, I should say. Are you going to be doing any show stuff this year? Going to them, speaking at any of them, any other, I guess, engagements like that?
Yeah. So I did a lot of seminars already this new year, which has been great. But I got another seminar coming up next weekend on Saturday at Bill's Muskie Club. No, it's not on Saturday. Oh my gosh, I should know this stuff while promoting it. But I'll look it up later. It's so yeah, I got one coming up at Bill's Muskie Club in February. And then I'll be at the Milwaukee show. I'm not speaking at the Milwaukee show, but just going there, working at the Chaos booth and helping them out, walking people to Thorne Brothers or wherever, just answering any and all questions. I just love going to those things. And then I got the Wisconsin Fishing Expo. I'll be speaking at that. I believe I'm on Saturday, and I'll be working that show as well in the Chaos booth. And then I have the Capital City Muskie School going on later on in March. Then followed by Lake Superior Muskies Inc. I'm speaking up there first weekend in April. So I got a lot of my plate coming up here.
Nice.
At least a lot of muskies during muskieless time of the year. It's kind of fun to chat with them. So, chat about them, I should say.
Keeps you always thinking about them. Make sure the muskies know that you're still thinking about them, even though it's January and February and March.
Gus, I'm always thinking about them.
Yeah, I'm sure they do too, and they're probably freaking. That's why they hide behind rocks and cribs and weeds, because they're like, "Oh shit, Michael's in town." Oh,
there's no time to miss ex-girlfriends, but there's plenty of time to miss muskies.
Amen.
So I don't know if Brian's mic's on mute or not, but I'm going to ask this question for him because I know he's curious. But are you lining up any baits here for 2024?
I was just going to ask that.
Seeing at the show.
Anything catching your eye?
Yeah, you go ahead, Brian. Line it up.
Oh yeah. Any new baits this year or new colors? Quad dog guy or not?
Oh boy, yeah. I don't know about the quad dog. I'm going to stick with my Medusas.
Just real quick, Brian's got a picture of a quad dog above his bed on his ceilings. So he can't wait. He's been counting down the days until he gets to throw
my gosh, that one extra tail. He just needed it so bad.
Yep.
No, and I'm not ripping on it. I've never seen one in action. I'd be, it'd be stupid for me to say that I just throw the stuff that that I promote. And I take good pride in what I promote. I promote good things, to my knowledge. Good companies that produce for me. But there's baits that I don't talk about either that I use all the time. And there's no one company out there that's going to take care of you to fill all your needs. There's so much good stuff out there. And sometimes you need something a little bit different to catch those fish. So anybody who's pretending to be brand loyal 100%. Well, there is one guy that I know. It's probably Hulbert. And amen, he is the man for being brand loyal, but that guy catches a ton of fish too. But yeah, I mean, as far as like new baits for the season, nothing that there are some new baits that are coming out that I used last year. That IC7 was an amazing bucktail by Muskie Frenzy. I call it the smallest, loudest bucktail out on the market.
Okay.
The amount of grind that thing has is unbelievable. Working it fast or slow. A lot of times I work my blades slow to medium up here during the day. Just puts out a different vibration, sound, speed that they don't really see much anymore. So that IC7 was really, really good to me last year. Boy, I think one of them alone caught 33 muskies on it before I retired it. One of the blades fell off, but you know what? If you catch 33 muskies on a bait and the blade falls off, and you're going to whine about that, I don't know what to tell you.
I don't think I've ever heard of
I would tell you to go buy 3 more.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of a $15 sucker catching 33 muskies before.
No, man, we lose our marbles if we catch 2 on one. It's like, man, that was a $7.50 sucker. That was awesome. But boy, yeah, I'm gonna stock up a little bit more on my beavers. Beavers were really good to me this year. Early on and later on in the year, they're a little tough for me, or mid-season. I think it was just because that water was so cold. In fact, most of my jerkbait fishing was quite cold all summer long. It was a big, big bucktail bite this year. I can't explain it. I've never seen anything like it, but those fish were going on bucktails like they've never seen one a day in their life. And that won't happen again for a while. I can assure you that, because so many fish were caught on bucktails. But gosh, man, what else? Gosh, I don't think there's much else.
Remind me, what are some companies that you're associated with that have been bringing out some of the new stuff, or maybe some show colors or whatever?
Yeah, I work with Chaos really tight. I've been working with them for a while. I work with Thorn Brothers, Leaders and Lures, Muskie Frenzy Lures, Beaver Baits. Gosh, I don't think I'm forgetting anybody, but it's a pretty tight circle, and I keep it that way because everybody has what I pretty much need to be successful out on the water. But one thing that I did talk about earlier that I should highlight, the blunt nose glider. I probably threw a glide bait more in the month of December than I did the past 10 years combined. And it will be safe to say that I will be throwing more of them moving forward. Another glide bait that, gosh, if you're going to the Wisconsin Muskie Expo, you got to go chat with Tom Harrison. Go get one of his glide baits. They're unbelievable. I've never seen a glide bait that you could work so unbelievably slow and has a perfect wobble on the drop. You can drop that thing into cabbage, into timber, you name it. Just sticky situations where you really can't get a whole lot of baits. Those will not last very long. There's a big cult following with his baits, and I don't know how much longer Tom's planning on making them. He's a very tough man. He says that he's not going to do it for much longer, but I know he enjoys doing it. So take a peek at those. They're unbelievable baits, and you'll see those at the Wisconsin Muskie Expo.
Are those the Tom Super Glides, if I'm not mistaken?
Correct. Yes, sir.
I saw them last year. I didn't pull the trigger, but that's reassuring.
They're unbelievable. And like I said, it may be something that's not out on the market for too much longer. So kind of treat it that way. Tom's a new friend to me, but when we met one another and hung out when fishing a couple times in December, it's like we've been friends for 15 years. Him and his wife were just fantastic. They let me into their house. They fed me. They made me lunch. They made me breakfast and dinner. It was just wild, and that's why I love this sport. To keep everything a little tight niche, tight group, but the people that I hang out with, the companies I work for, it's because there's some of the best out there, and I love working with them and hanging out with them.
That's sweet. Yeah, and I know the Wausau show, the Wisconsin Muskie Expo. That's kind of what it's about, is a lot of smaller bait manufacturers that make small batch. Maybe you only find them during this particular show, and I think that's why it gets I'd say a pretty good amount of traction, a good amount of foot traffic.
It really does. It's like that show itself is kind of like a little cult following.
Yeah.
See a lot of the same faces there year after year, but it's filled. There's a lot of people in that show, and it's not a giant show by any means, but it's not small either. But you get to see some really cool stuff that people just put so much time and effort into building.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying everybody there makes the best thing out there, but there are a lot of people that are extremely dedicated to the craft of making musky lures, and they're very proud of it. And there's a lot of those guys that wouldn't sell that stuff if they didn't truly believe in it. You're not there to make a buck. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way.
I mean, it's even just like our buddy Nick. Hey, Gus, you can talk on that a little bit, but I don't know if he's sold at shows before, but like there's so many hidden gem bait makers of these guys that make small batch stuff that really take their time and do some amazing stuff that, I mean, if you're trying to differentiate yourself in the musky world, like we're talking about fishing on some of these pressured waters, like what better way to do that than buy from somebody who only makes, maybe a couple hundred baits a year. There's just not going to be that many people throwing that stuff. So like you're talking about this glide bait, like I'm sold now. I'm definitely picking up, one of those glide baits, and there'll probably be a few others. But yeah, Gus, if you want to touch on it, like our buddy Nick at all, I mean, those are some incredible crankbaits and paint jobs that you just don't really see,
Yeah,
mass produced because it can't be.
Right. Yeah, because he's a one-man show. I mean, he's been doing it for quite some time. I could be wrong, but I think this is probably his first time like bringing baits to a show ever. He's had them sold at shops in town here in Eagle River, but I mean, we just got to ice fish with him the other day, but during the week, man, I talked to him on the phone here and there, and every time I could just like hear him sanding in the background, like every day.
Yeah.
He's been working on those baits, I think 7 days a week, and he's trying to get a big, fairly sizable batch to bring to the Wausau show, the Wisconsin Muskie Expo. So I'm excited for that. I think he's in with some of his friends, like he's sharing a booth with, I want to say like Titletown Muskies Inc. maybe, if that sounds right. I think they got a booth, and I think
Sure.
because he's got some buddies who fish Green Bay. So
Those guys are troublemakers. Those guys at that Titletown Muskie booth.
Yeah,
Oh,
Nick's
yeah.
not
You
too
go
far
visit
off.
those guys this year in Wausau. They're
Yeah.
gonna be just horrible men.
yeah, I can't wait to meet him. I can't wait.
Gosh, they're a lot of fun, those guys.
My kind of people.
Yeah, I'll probably be grabbing a brew from Taps and Tackle too, assuming that they're gonna be back there. They got some good stuff always too.
Yeah, I think they had a keg there last year.
Yeah.
Where and thank God I didn't hear about it because it would have been 0 to 100 real quick there, boys and girls.
Yeah.
Been upside down doing a keg stand, huh?
Yeah, we were like, I better buy some baits. I just had like 18 of your beers. Thanks.
If I was doing the Taps and Tackle booth, I would definitely say longest keg stand gets a free bait.
I was just gonna say, yeah, if you can
Yeah.
hold
Oh,
it 20
man.
seconds or more, free bait.
I
Everybody
think the
in there
last keg
stumbling.
stand I personally witnessed, which is why I've never done one. Moving on from this, is I was in college at Point, And I watched this person doing one, and all of a sudden, both their hands slipped off at the exact same time,
Oh,
Oh, no.
and they just ate a freaking half barrel. Like
Oh,
the noise that came out of that.
don't.
Luckily, the
oh.
person that happened to had a head harder than any titanium metal out there or
Jeez.
whatever. Like, I've never seen somebody just get up like moments later and proceed to party. It's like, rock on. I'm not doing that.
I'm sure he
I didn't-
wasn't saying the same thing the next day, though. There's no way.
No, he was okay.
Okay.
He
Okay.
wasn't great, but yeah, he was okay.
Wonder what that guy's up to these days. I didn't know that you went to Point. That's awesome. Did you do some fishing in college and you're at Point?
I did more fishing than I studied. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way.
I would have probably guessed that. I mean,
Yeah, gosh, yeah, boy, man, yeah, I do have gosh, I don't know. I do tell this story a lot guiding. I might as well tell this story. You guys got a few minutes? I
Oh, we
think
got
it's
all
really funny.
we got all
It's
the
not
time.
really all that fishing related, but it's pretty funny about my collegiate career. So, I wasn't very, I didn't try that hard in high school. Let's put it that way. I wasn't a bad kid. I was an extremely talented swimmer, but I just didn't really focus that hard on schoolwork. I just wanted to play. So, going into college, I had the Stevens Point coach call me, and he's like, "Hey, I know you're serious about not real serious about college, but we really want you to come swim up here, and we think that you should get a degree." And I was like, you know what? I think that was pretty cool. So went up there. My grades weren't good enough to get into Point. Okay, this is bad. So so they have this thing called the Bridge Program through Mid-State Technical School, which is right next to Stevens Point University. So that way I could take 12 credits there, 1 credit at Point, and I could practice with the swim team. I could be on the food plan, stay in the dorms, do whatever a normal UW college kid would do. And then after one good semester, I'm full blown into Point. So, well, I majored in fishing, beer, and ladies. Not particularly in that order. But so, 2 weeks into the second semester goes by and I get this letter. And it's like, if you're not out of here by Friday at this time, we're going to charge you, like, let's say, it was like something absurd, like $100 an hour. So I like looked at my roommate and I was like, well, they found out. It's time to go home. So I moved back home, got an apartment right away, started working again. Months go by, and I get this letter from the WEAC conference, okay? And the WEAC conference states that I am a 4.0 student, and I am one of few all American, all academic students or athletes, okay? So I'm like, man, this is one of the cruelest jokes I've ever seen in my life. Fast forward into October, I had a good friend of mine that wanted me to come up there for homecoming. I show up and they're like, Hanson, we got to go to Mayor Roach Hall right now. We got to show you something. I was like, okay, like, I just got here, but sure, let's go. There, sure enough, my name is on a golden plaque for having a 4.0. All right. Nobody know what the hell's going on. So after a bit of drinking, we put all of our minds together that night. We figured it out. I flunked out of Mid-State Technical School, but I got an A in weightlifting. So I'm the only person to UW Stevens Point Knowledge to be kicked out with a 4.0 and be recognized for it.
Oh my
That's
God.
incredible.
Yeah, I'm sorry it was a little long of a story. I tried to condense it as much as possible, but whatever. If you can't laugh at yourself, especially, I think I'm doing okay for myself. I'm not doing the greatest, but I get to go musky fishing a lot and show people that. So pretty happy with where I've come after setting the world on fire, giving 4.0 it's a wave goodbye.
I mean, you're just a scholar, you're a gentleman and a scholar, obviously. So, I mean, and I don't want to downplay that you're 4.0 at Point, but like, how does one get like a B in weightlifting? Like, you not racking the
Well,
weights
what's
right?
funny
You're
is
not lifting enough.
my swim coach was my teacher in that. But I did try hard. I did try hard. I was swimming for crying out loud, so I had to lift weights. But yeah, I don't know how you get a B in weightlifting, but I'm happy I put to prove how sharp of a student I really am after my weightlifting performance.
That's awesome. That's a great story. Yeah, I mean obviously now you're doing all these seminars and feels like I watched Gus like put together some of his PowerPoint for the Mosinee show, and I had told him, I'm like, man, this is giving me flashbacks of like my freshman year of college or like high school almost, like trying to put together these PowerPoints and how to present and do all this stuff. Like it's just a whole different game. And we had Austin
Now it's
Wigger.
fun. I mean, I love it now.
Yeah.
It's
crazy. You get to talk muskies, right? But we had Austin Wiggerman on last week, and he was like, yeah, when I decided to become a fishing guide, like nowhere in the fine print did it say that I'd have to all of a sudden be like a public speaker and put all these presentations together and stuff like that. But I think it's fun for you guys, and you get to continue to share your knowledge outside of guide season. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, with the amount of knowledge we share, I can guarantee you anytime I give a seminar, I still learn something. I think about something, and I might share it. It's like, oh, wait, maybe this is why that happened,
Yeah.
It's something, your mind's thinking then.
Well,
and yeah, I don't know how to describe it.
I mean, even just talking about, you're using the glide bait more in December, and it's like, you don't think that you'd learn something in December that you might instrument come the start of the season or whatever, where you're like, okay, now I'm going to be using that bait more. I don't know if you're going to be using it throughout the summer or whatever more, but if it was effective then, like you'd know how to use it, you get confidence with it. Next thing you know, like bite gets tough. Hey, I'm going to start throwing this glider, and you never know what could happen. So it's just one of those things. It's always
I thought of a dozen times throughout my past year where I could have and should have used the glide bait in a certain scenario, because I knew a fish was in a certain area where I could get a bait there, but not get it there and make it stick there maybe for a little bit longer, to get its attention to come out of that cover. So, no, it's 100%.
Yeah, I would say Brian's our probably glide bait aficionado here on the pod.
I thought you were to say jerk bait. I don't know about glide. I'm looking to. I want to get a blunt nose glide or round nose glide at the show. Is it too early to talk about opener? I wanted to get into some of your top baits for opener.
For my opener?
Yeah, let's assume this winter continues how it's been. It's going to be a warm spring. These fish are going to be on your traditional shallow structure for the most part. What kind of presentation are you giving them?
Gosh, with this, I never thought about this.
Good question.
I wonder if these fish are going to spawn at the same time as, based on daylight, or if they're going to spawn sooner if we given the chance at having warmer water conditions. That always gets me thinking, but I'm hoping that it's going to be warmer than normal. Last year ice out was really late. We were dealing with really cold water temperatures. But a lot of times I'm throwing a lot of twitch baits, 5-6 inch twitch baits. And I'm working them kind of similar to a glide bait. That's why I think I don't throw a lot of glide baits, because the way I throw a twitch bait is very similar to a glide bait. And I find that it kind of throws a little bit more flash vibration into the water. I do think that there's a time where those fish don't like that, but you won't know that until you're throwing one side by side. But yeah, I'll be throwing a lot of, very small blades, working them slow. IC7s in particular, that was really good right off the bat last season. My topwater game early in the year is typically pretty decent. This year, topwater just sucked, but I'm not going to write that off quite yet. But I would say a lot of twitching of crankbaits. Beavers are always good too, right away in the spring. I work those close to unweighted. If I do work it weighted at all, it's something like on a regular baby beaver, I'd throw maybe a quarter of an ounce on there, maybe less. And throwing a bell sinker on the actual nose of the bait with 2 split rings I saw a video on that earlier this year. I wish I could give the guy credit. I forgot his name. In fact, I think Austin Wiggerman shared it, so he would know. But he would put a bell sinker on the nose of that beaver with two split rings, and when you work that thing, that knocks against the face of that beaver.
Damn.
Oh.
It's just a subtle
More
knock.
noise.
It mimics the same knocking sound that the midsection and the front and rear section make with one another too. It's just a real subtle knock, but that way it's kind of knocking in one place, knocking in the second place, knocking in the third place. So that's how I'm rigging my beavers a lot of times during the spring, but mainly just shallow stuff. If I know that those muskies are done spawning on Cisco bodies of water, I'm going to go out to those deeper basin areas adjacent to their spawning grounds, look for bait, and just cast aimlessly among those bait piles because there's piles of muskies out there too.
Brian, what did you catch your big fish on opener weekend 2 years ago that was kind of weird? I'm trying to remember the bait, but I thought it was something that
mini Medusa.
it was a
Walleye.
mini Medusa. That's right.
A mini
like-
Medusa,
in
nice.
like 2-3 feet of water.
Yeah,
No
popping
kidding.
it in no water.
Were you working it around spawning crappies or anything like that?
I don't know if we knew at the time. I mean, it was up. Was it on the rock bar?
It was on like what would
Reed
be in
bar.
the summer a bulrush bed.
Yeah.
What
So
lake
it's
was
like-
it? I'll be able to tell you if there's crappies there.
Yeah.
No more
Nah,
fish in
there's
there. We'll
not-
gladly
there's-
tell
You
you.
did that to me. I had to try it.
Almost
Yeah.
had me.
The
we were
lake
we
is-
were we were confused. We all of a sudden Brian's like he's the classic like gonna throw something different, and every once in a while he strikes gold. And I remember that time you pulled that bait, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing, dude? Like I'm not gonna catch anything." Sell them in like the 2-packs, for like 17
Oh, one of
bucks.
those, a micro one?
No, it wasn't a micro.
Max. It was
Okay,
the
okay,
mini.
was it the mini?
Okay.
All right.
No.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, that's even more impressive. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I couldn't remember. I just remember it was something like that. I don't even think we've ever thrown it really since that weekend or whatever. And
Sure.
I don't know. Ended up producing our biggest fish that weekend, and one of the bigger ones we've ever had during opener. We've historically, had okay numbers, but have had a hard time finding some of those bigger fish during opener.
Oh, everybody does. I mean, the few that you see on social media are because you're friends with 400 plus different muskie anglers, and you saw maybe 2 or 3 big ones in northern Wisconsin get caught on opening weekend.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that's true all the time, but like most of the time, it's super cold, and you see 2 to 5 other people have really good success with big ones, and it makes us feel like we don't know what the hell we're doing. But you're fishing around those small ones and catching those big ones aren't going to be too far away either.
What other mods have you made to your beaver? Because I've been curious this offseason about trying to rig up mine and do something different with it. I know people have swapped out the tail and put on a blade of some sorts.
You're
Like you
curious about my beaver?
Yeah.
Wow.
Cut the
Okay.
tape. Cut the tape.
It's just long hair,
How
guys.
have
It's
you
just long
bedazzled
hair.
your beaver
It's just long.
to make it more appealing?
Oh gosh. No, the blades. I do a lot of blades on the back. I throw a willow leaf blade back there, depending on the size of the beaver. It depends on the size of the blade, but I like willows a lot. Colorado, I feel like it changes its action a little bit too much. It kind of drags it a little bit more than I'd like on that drop. So, and they're super easy to make. I mean, Brian makes them. They're great. But if you have a little bit of, just 274-pound single strand wire, you buy a
Mhm.
spool of that for $7.99. Some shrink tubing, treble hook, your swivels, and the blade. I mean, you can make these things for nickels. And when you do that, you can make multiples of them too. You can make one, a bronze one, a silver one, a fluted one, a hammered one, all in different sizes, so you can mix and match based on what beaver you want to throw for that day. But I had a lot of fun making those, and I caught more fish with the blade attachment on this year than I did without it. I don't know why necessarily. I think they're both really good actions, but I think a lot of times where I did really well on the blade is when it was somewhat sunny out versus the tail
Okay.
being better during darker periods.
Yeah, that
Cool.
makes sense. Putting out that little extra flash. I mean, I kind of
Yep.
saw that with tubes. I did a lot of trailer blades with tubes. Not exactly with beavers, so that's interesting that you said that. I actually went opposite. Like if I wanted something with a blade, I would just go tube. And if I wanted to make it more subtle, I would just go beaver. I didn't really do the mix and match with the beaver,
Oh, sure.
but but yeah, that's interesting because I did try a couple. I agree with you on the trailer blade attachment hooks. Very easy to make, but I tried it with the beaver and I wasn't getting the action I wanted, so I think I was just going too big of blades.
Sure.
Because I want them
Yep.
to move around. I don't want it to damper. It's the same thing with the tube or really anything you throw a blade on. If it just makes the bait not really shake, shimmy, up, down, it just dampens the action. That's, no good, you know.
No, absolutely. You're totally right. And you just got to play around with it. What looks good to you is going to look good to a fish for the most part, you know.
We'd like to think
Yeah,
so.
I don't even know why I said that. I feel like I just lied,
We're
you
fishy
know, but that's
people.
what I feel at least.
We think we
But
know what
man,
muskie
that's wild
like.
about the tube thing. I don't hate it, but I really don't like tubes with blades on.
Crazy. That's what I clean house on. It's crazy. I
Yeah,
it's I think it's gotta be personal preference and like how I mean, we've had this conversation actually with our good friends Nick and Clayton who do the PMTT, and it's like it's something about, like chasing bites. You could use the exact same lure and have exact opposite results because you down to the minute exactly how you work that bait could be completely different, and that's not going to get the fish going. Like
yep,
just like I throw a tube on with the blade in the back, you throw a tube on the blade with the back, the results that day could be different. We could be like casting the same direction, and vice versa.
yeah.
The beavers with the blade in the back and so on and so forth. So that's definitely an important thing to kind of keep in mind. It's almost how you work the bait.
I, I remember when you started putting trailer blades on tubes. Like I think Brian was, we were talking about this too. Like we all were kind of like, dude, this looks terrible.
Yeah.
Like it
Oh yeah.
totally like hindered the action of the tube. Or
Yeah.
like the whole point of like doing the tube is so it has this like crazy, bounce to it where like, you kind of pop it and like it shoots, 45 degrees one way, you pop it again, it shoots the other way, it shoots it, the same way or whatever. And it just like has this awesome glide. And then you put a, a blade on it. Like we were
Doesn't
throwing,
really do that.
little Colorados or, whatever on the back and like it just dulled everything. But I think what it forced us to do is like, well, like when we started doing it, we had some success. And I think, again, that just breeds confidence. But like, it almost felt like, it was really applicable in some of those more, at least for the summer, like those shallow weed bites where you just were ripping it and like, back surgery status ripping it, where you're just popping it super hard through these
Yep.
weeds. And, I think the extra flash or whatever, and then honestly, the blade helped kind of keep the tube up and keep it out of the
Mhm.
weeds a little bit more because it dulled the fall. And so, like, if you're in, 5 to 7 feet of like thick cover, you could work that tube super hard through those weeds and the blade would not let it dive back into it. And you could kind of just keep popping it and touching the cover, popping it, touching, popping it, and touching. And once you kind of got that rhythm down, like you were talking about in our last pod, with you get the rhythm down with the big Medusas, and you actually said something that blew my mind. Where you're like, I can work the Medusas more aggressively, and it's actually easier on my body once I get a rhythm down, rather than doing big
Yep.
long sweeps. And
Yep.
that's kind of how it started to get with the tubes. Like when I started doing it, I was all fumbly and like, what the hell am I doing? I'm killing my shoulders, I'm killing my back, and it still hurts, but like you get that rhythm down and you get the slack line pop, and it's like that just on, just doing it over and over again. And whatever reason, it just got fish to go on days where we were throwing everything else and only the tubes with the trailer blades were pulling fish out of this stuff. It was really weird.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a time and place for everything, and you don't really know, and that's what makes it so fun. We're always trying new stuff. We're
Mm-hmm.
trying stuff that has worked for us. we try stuff that's worked for us and has failed us for multiple times in a row, and you still got to try it because it worked that one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just whatever you feel confident in, whatever keeps you mentally in it as much as possible.
Because objectively, a tube and even a Medusa are like weird looking baits that a muskie
No,
would eat. You know what I mean?
no,
Like you just have this
absolutely.
tube with a blade. This is a circular object, whatever color you want.
Look at a
obviously.
bucktail.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, seriously. What?
Nobody can tell me what a bucktail looks like accurately.
It doesn't have fins on it.
No, it doesn't have anything on it that resembles anything that a muskie would eat, but they love them
They
because
just
they move water
pisses them
and
off.
it's something that moves.
It's
Right.
true.
And like a Medusa, I mean, unless you're fishing the Fox River, like I don't see too many fish with 4 tails on them.
Yeah.
3 or 4.
Oh my God.
I say that
Oh.
respectively. We grew up in Appleton. All right. No one get mad.
Oh man.
I fished on my buddy's dock almost every day after high school, and we pulled some funky looking shit out of that river.
That's funny.
That brings me back.
Oh man. I had a girl once tell me kiss me where it stinks, so I took her over to Appleton.
I thought it was Kakana. No, Little
Yeah,
Chute.
come on now. That's only when the wind blows from the north.
No, it is Kakana. You're right. I screwed that
It's
one.
definitely. Sorry, Kakana. Sorry, Brian.
Sorry, Brian.
Oh, Brian's a Kakana boy, huh?
Yeah,
Now he
that's
is.
where I'm currently at.
Oh, right on. No. Yeah.
Doesn't usually stink unless you're a mile down the road, so I got lucky.
Yeah. Right on.
Oh,
Oh boy.
all right. Well, anything else we want to touch on here, fellas? This was another long format pod, which with Gus during the winter season, I don't feel too bad having to edit these things. These are a lot of fun, just kind of opening it up and chatting. Anything else you guys want to touch on it? Because I got one or two more things, so I just always like to ask.
Go for it. I think I'm good. We did a good discussion on a bunch of stuff, past and future things. So
Sure. All right. Well, we asked this question to Greg, and I know the new year has passed a little bit, but give us some resolutions here for 2024, fishing or otherwise. What do you got as some goals set here for the upcoming season? If you've thought about that at all. If not, no worries.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I guess just fish harder than last year. Every year I say that. I just want to fish
It's going
harder.
to be tough to do.
Yeah, well, there are still some days where, it was very rare this summer that I did take a day off, but I do have to adult every once in a while too, and typically I wait for the last minute to do all my adulting so I can do it all at once. But yeah, just fish even harder than the last year. And I don't want to ever put a number on how many muskies I want to have boated or
Sure.
how many big ones, because you just don't know. It's all based on the year that's given to you. Like last year was a tough year for big fish during the summer, but it was an excellent year for them in the fall. And you could say kind of the opposite of the year before that. Or actually, yeah. But yeah, it's just, fish more. And I think everybody should think about that, and we can all make excuses. I know there's a lot of people that truly want to fish when they can't fish, but there are also way too many people that do have enough time to get out for 4 hours or get out for the day, and they don't do it. And you want to get better at catching these things, you just got to be out there more and more. And that's what I'm going to continue to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a goal of ours through this podcast is to help people light the fire a little bit, that listen in and hear guys like yourself that are doing it. So I think that's all good stuff. I mean, it is hard in the muskie world to put a number on things or goal wise. But it's always just I'm always just kind of curious is like just high level stuff, like for me this year, I really want to catch a big fish out of clear water. I've done it, but it's been very limited. We haven't fished too many clear bodies of water, and we got a few of them coming up on the PMTT schedule. We've kind of run down some things tournament wise, but it's always fun just to kind of think, you set the goals in the middle of winter, whether you remember them or not come season, but it's always fun to just kind of think about them, like, hey, it'd be awesome to catch, a 4-footer in northern Wisconsin during the month of June, something, like we haven't been able to figure out, figuring out that open water bite or whatever, getting some bigger fish to move earlier in the season. So yeah, no, I was just kind of curious to hear if there's anything particular that you're like, hey, I kind of didn't do a good job of that last year. Maybe this year I can kind of step it up or whatever in this area.
Yeah, man, I'd be the first one to tell you if I didn't think I did a good job. But I think I could have done better at sometimes. But I'm just happy with how hard I tried.
Sure.
That's what makes me feel good about my season at the end of the day. It's no matter what comes of it, if you catch fish that day, if you don't catch fish, if you move a lot, if you don't move a lot, like that's part of muskie fishing. We're always playing the lottery, but just if I can honestly say, like, I tried my flipping hardest all day long, whether it's just for me, for friends and family, or clients that are in my boat, doesn't matter. It's if I tried hard that day, feel successful.
Yeah.
No matter how bad I got my ass kicked, because it does happen. It happens a lot.
That's all you can ask for is just trying your freaking hardest out there, man. Because sometimes it's just the time that you put in, and then they hand you one. Sometimes it's almost like you think the water owes you one, like you almost just by putting in that extra time. But
it never does, though.
I don't know, man. Sometimes those muskies hit the bag at some pretty crazy times where you're like, this was perfect. I needed this, right when they're really just kicking you to the curb. I mean, it happens more than you think. I mean, on a day-to-day basis, I don't know how many different thoughts go through your head. I mean, as you, a guide, and myself, the one thing that I should probably work on this year is not have my mind race in a million different directions, because it's pretty good at doing that. And even though I like to slow things down, whether it be the boat or just anything in particular, I just need to like almost collect myself during the day. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's one thing I got to work on, because there's just so much to think about in the sport. I mean, we're talking about a lot of things. Like, there's a lot of great knowledge in this podcast. That's a lot to like almost take in at once. I don't know.
Yeah, but what I would say on this too, Gus, like if you're not feeling that throughout the day, multiple times throughout the day, that means you don't care. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and slowing it down. Yeah, it's important, but your mind should be thinking 10,000 different scenarios at one time, of how to get a pattern together, this and that. But also be true to yourself, knowing that you're doing it 100%. Like, I am doing this 100% the way I should be doing this right now. And if you have any doubt about it, then you make those decisions. You don't wait to finish the spot before you think about changing a bucktail out because you think there should be another bait in the water. You change that bait out right away, and, I get it. I get where you're coming from. But at the same time, if you start not thinking that way, there's plenty of people out there that'll take you out in a boat and not think that way. And they'll take your money at the end of the day and just say, well, better luck next time. See ya.
True. Yeah, that is true. I mean, it just shows the passion that we have for the sport, like just how much we want our clients to get on a fish. They might not see it because these are thoughts in our heads, but that's what we're definitely doing out there on a day-to-day basis.
Have you ever tried yelling at them?
No, I'm not a yeller.
Yeah, I would suggest that.
No.
He saves it all for Brian and I.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're not a yeller, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh, that is true. Yeah, when the poor buddy's under the boat, it's like, uh-oh.
Oh yeah, these two guys on the podcast, yeah, I'll yip and yap at them all day if I have to. That's a no-brainer right there, but no.
I love it.
All right. Well, we can't thank you enough coming on. Another recurring guest. Hopefully we'll have you on during the season if you have time. I know things get a little busier for you, so maybe we'll ping you during smallmouth season or something. If you can make a few more hours for us, we'd always appreciate it.
Dude, anytime. I absolutely love chatting with you guys. Like these conversations just get lost, and it's not lost in a bad way. It's fun shooting the stick with you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I also I remember you telling us a little bit about the chip flowage back when we talked in September. It was the week before the championship, and
Yeah.
everything you said pretty much rang true. There was, man, that was an interesting body of water, and I don't want to keep going on too long here, but interesting body of water, and there was a bass tournament going on during the World Championship. And,
wonderful.
oh my God, was there a lot of boats flying around out there at the same time that, yeah, and it's at that point, you're kind of in it. It's higher stakes or whatever, but then the bass guys are doing their thing, and you got the recreational fall boaters out there, and holy shit. I mean, it was a beautiful body of water. I loved every minute of it, kind of. We had some struggles there, but yeah, holy shit. You were spot on with your analysis there, the chip flowage.
It makes a big lake fish really small, doesn't it?
That's
when
true.
you got all that going on.
There's truth in that for sure.
Yeah.
Also
But
just
who cares? You guys freaking nailed it this year. Congratulations. How cool is that?
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. It's fun.
Really
Well deserved. That's awesome. That's not easy going to that many bodies of water and being consistent. Let me tell you, that is not easy.
Certainly all came together in the last few minutes on the second day.
We're
That's all
down
that
bad,
matters.
but
That's all that flipping matters. I heard about it. It was such a cool story on how it happened.
the old
And would you want
trusty
it to happen
suit.
any other way?
I
Just feel like
know.
absolute dog crap for a day and a half, and then that happens.
I mean, a muskie in the first day would have been nice. Like
the fact that we had to follow in the first like 3 minutes and then just had heartbreak after heartbreak for the next day and a half. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't think I would have had it go any other way because there was no shot in hell we were going to win that tournament with
Sure.
what happened. It just wasn't. We weren't.
We
It just
on
wasn't
the pods.
fair.
No.
Yeah, we weren't on the fish. Like we quickly found out we weren't on the bite and we didn't want to chase it. And so, yeah, I guess for it to happen the way it did was pretty cool. Just that like we felt pretty much down and out and then it worked out. But yeah, we were never going to win that tournament. It's one of those fisheries, man, that's a diverse body of water. That's a crazy.
It is.
Crazy
it is.
lake.
It's fun though. It is definitely a fun little lake or big lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I just did a little research while we're wrapping up here. For any new listeners here, tune back into episode 21 from September 21st, 2023, where we had Michael on for the first time. So if you're looking, we just dove right into it tonight, but if you're looking for a little more background and his guiding and everything, that's there in that podcast. So highly recommend that one. But yeah, can't thank you enough, Michael, for coming on. Before we let you go, you want to give some quick plugs for the guide service, website, phone number, page, all that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. My guide service is Namakagon Area Guide Service. I guide in 6 different counties across northwestern Wisconsin. Also a couple times in Minnesota if you're interested in that. But you can contact me on my cell phone at area code 608-695-9073. My email is hansen.michael608@gmail.com. And if you want to take a peek at the fish that we're catching up here in northwestern Wisconsin, you can hop on my Instagram, which is MuskieHunter21. I usually load all my nice fish pictures up on that one. So if you care to care to see what we were catching up in northern Wisconsin. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on again. give me a call anytime. I could talk about muskies with you guys any day. One of these days, we'll have to meet up and talk muskies and have some beers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Let's do it.
I'll see you this weekend.
Oh, yeah?
Oh yeah,
This is
The road-
right.
oh yeah, the road rules,
yeah.
and then oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. So
We probably
I-
shouldn't shock in a beer before that, eh?
no,
Might be just what you need.
no.
Well, I'll have a couple cold ones just in case. It'll be a game time decision.
Yeah, they'll. It's mostly sipping on brews that type of day, so
Yeah.
not shotgunning. But
Get your mind out of Wisconsin sports, Michael.
yeah,
No shotgunning beers.
Yeah, tough end for the Packers this year. We touched on it in one of our pods. So sad.
No, man.
But
That's
also
so cool, though.
It's still
so
sweet season, but god damn it.
I'm just really pissed off. I have to cheer for the Chiefs right now because I will not cheer for the Niners. They've
Yeah.
broken my heart way too many times growing up. It started in 1998. I hated them.
Here are the things that I will be cheering for in the Super Bowl. I will be cheering for the coin toss. I will be cheering for the
National anthem time limit.
the length of the national anthem. And I will be cheering let's see, what other bets can I make that don't involve
Gatorade color.
Gatorade color. I'll be cheering probably for maybe a blue Gatorade or a red Gatorade this year.
what's the thing they call for total points between each team? Maybe.
I mean,
Maybe, but then you got to watch the game.
I'm so pissed about the matchup in this Super Bowl this
I
year.
am too. Lousy NFL, horrible script.
Maybe if there's like an over under on how many times they show Taylor Swift, I'll hammer the over on that one.
Yeah, get my retirement fund out.
Yeah, there you go.
I
All
hope
right.
it's an over, man. She ain't bad to look at.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
true. That's true. That's true. You
She
ain't
is
wrong
not
there.
bad to look at.
Better her than both the teams, I guess.
Yeah, better than her than like when they show the owners up there, like Jerry Jones just sitting in his box, being all pissed off or something like that.
Yeah.
Hey, come up to my neck of the woods. You'll be thrilled to see a picture of Taylor Swift on any TV at any time. Anytime guaranteed.
Oh man!
As
That's,
Midwesterners, should we talk about the weather quick before we say goodbye?
Yeah. Been warmer than normal.
Yeah.
Just crazy how warm it's been, eh?
Oh, nuts! Yeah.
Oh, nuts. Oh, gosh. I hope all this ice goes away.
It will. It will.
We'll see the real people who pull their boats out right away. No.
Yeah.
I already made the mistake of putting my away too early, so I'm not gonna make that mistake getting it out too late. I'm getting it out.
I've said this quote since 2014, 2013, whenever I owned my first boat. It was always utilize, never winterize.
There
I
you
like
go.
that.
There you
Like
go.
that. Michael, we can't thank you enough for coming on again. We will definitely check in with you here before the start of the season, hopefully, if schedules work out. But other than that, we'll see you at some shows. You and Gus will have a good time on Saturday. Best of luck on your presentations. I'm sure they'll go swimmingly. But yeah, let's have some beers at some shows and talk some more muskies.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks again, guys, for having me on. Had a blast.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Anytime.
Can't thank Michael enough for coming on here tonight to chit chat muskies here during this winter day that we got. And yeah, we really tackled some great topics there. You know, we got on some tips for late fall, you know, some odd fishing times that people aren't used to being able to do in the Northwoods or really anywhere in Wisconsin. And because of the weather, the changes of the seasons for muskies going to December 31st now statewide. But it was a great chat. Definitely dial this one back up, save it in your in Spotify or Apple or whatever you use for podcasts to dial back up on, you know, October 1st of 2024. So with that being said, what did you boys take away from there? Who wants to start? Max, Brian?
I would just say, I took away mainly his enthusiasm for the sport. I mean, we talked to a lot of absolute musky nuts, but I mean, Michael's probably at the top of the list for me in terms of most passionate in the game. I mean, that dude just lives and breathes muskie. It sounds like he fished pretty much every day that water was open this year and for like 13, 14 hours a day, sleeping on the water. He's pretty crazy. Hopefully we can get out and fish with him this spring. His energy is pretty contagious in that sense, but he did spark my interest with his beaver modifications. Got me thinking about trying to rig one up. Maybe when I come up there to ice fish in February, I'll have some supplies on me to do some mods live. But I think that little, I don't, what kind of weight did he have? Do you remember off the
He
double
said
swivel?
like throwing on an extra split ring or two in the front
Yeah, two split rings, and then
and
there's
like a bell sinker,
yeah,
that you could just
dangles.
attach dangle extra low that would smash into the plastic head of the beaver, which was interesting because like
Yeah.
the only noise a beaver makes is the clanking of the jointed body, and it's almost like you're adding an extra bead, like you have a crankbait with one bead rattling back and forth, and then you got some where there's like freaking four in there rattling back and forth. That was interesting.
Yeah.
That was a good tip right there. That was a good thing to try for sure.
Yeah, I'd like to rig it up. I know, like, if I do that and maybe mod the tail of it a little bit with a blade or something, I'm just gonna want to dunk it in the lake and see what it looks like. I'm not gonna be able to do that, so it might be a little double-edged sword there, but we'll see. I'd like to get it done. But Max, how about you? What'd you take away?
Well, hopefully we don't have open water for our ice fishing bender competition at the end of
Yeah,
February.
Yeah, shit.
At this rate, who freaking knows? Well, I learned that he was an academic genius, 4.0 student at Stevens Point. So that was
pretty incredible.
yeah, pretty. You think about it.
Not many
that
could
was a
say
funny
that.
story. Yeah, that was a funny story. But yeah, no, just overall, I always really like chatting with Michael. I mean, we talked on our first time we had him on. He's a guy that we've, listened to on, or I guess watched and listened to on YouTube for a while with Today's Angler. So always cool to kind of check in with him and chat muskies. I agree, Brian. I think his passion for the sport is definitely contagious. Um, so that's great. That's pretty much the takeaway. I mean, just had a really good time chatting with him. Looking forward to having him back on. Good to, I guess, looking forward to meeting him in person at some of the shows, and looking forward to hearing how the Mosinee Road Rules event goes this weekend. Gus, what about you? What was your takeaway?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I think that'll be yeah, I haven't met Michael in person, so I'm really looking forward to seeing him this weekend at the Road Rules event and speaking there and listening to him speak as well as Greg and Nate in that one. So from Michael's, I gotta say, when we were talking about the sucker fishing, that was really interesting how he was, kind of like how I am, go really, really slow with the sucker fishing. Sounded like he raised them up higher than normal, so he probably fished the suckers lower, which is kind of what I do, keep them close to the bottom. And he said to go fast. That was not one thing that we did, because I kind of broke it into two categories where it's like sucker fishing, stick and stay, make them pay on a spot where the fish are, or I trolled where I just would cover ground. It's almost like you put two and two together. Hey, let's use suckers quick, keep them up high, make these muskies make that decision to eat them or not. I thought that was pretty
Yeah,
cool. I think that's something that we're gonna have to try. There's so many tricks with the sucker fishing. I mean, you
and just
think
his
it's
like
as
rigging.
you think it's as simple as just tossing a hook and the quick strike rig on a sucker, putting it down with the sinker, going along whatever edge you're on. It's definitely not. There's some other like tricks, just like little fine details there that add up to getting a bite because you can very easily go a day, 2 days longer without a bite, even though you got 1 or 2 suckers back every single day you're out. So I found that interesting. I'm definitely going to take that into consideration next season. So as always, Michael gives up some pretty awesome knowledge. So I hope everybody really enjoyed that interview. We really did as well. So yeah, I don't think there's too much more to talk about. We already got the road rule stuff. After that, we'll probably discuss about Milwaukee Muskie Expos coming up pretty soon, mid February.
Merch
Otherwise, we
update?
don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Yeah, I mean, there's no, I don't have them in hand, but the hats are not in yet. I'm looking forward to the hats. As you all saw on our Instagram, if you follow us there, the Muskies on Tap Instagram, we threw up a poll with hat colors and colorways. They're ordered and they're on their way. And I'm really looking forward to that. We got that just in time so that they can arrive before, crossing my fingers, before Milwaukee Muskie Expo, and bringing those in person to sell to all the people there, the listeners, hopefully new listeners that we pick up. And I'll have those at all the 3 shows that I'm going to, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, and Wausau. So I really look forward to walking around there and meeting some of you guys and gals, and just chatting muskies. I'm really looking forward to it. I had a nice little break from kinda, not doing too much musky things, and now it's really on the mind. I'm well, I know
What colors did we go with for the hats?
we went with 5. I got 5 different colors. So
Wow.
the coyote brown, the camo, the heather gray, the charcoal gray, and moss green. No shortage of options there. I think they all look great. I probably will be definitely wearing the camo one a lot. I'm a big time camo dude. I was definitely impressed with the coyote brown. I think that was the most popular. I don't see that color hat around too much, so I think
Brian, what color are you going with?
I got to see him in person first. I like the looks of the camo online, but we'll see. I mainly got to figure out which one fits my Mel the best. They all fit a little different.
Well, you got that pencil head.
Dog, you got that last button snapback head, boy.
we got some late night chirps going on here.
You got that head that hasn't grown since middle school, boy.
Oh shit.
Well, we're really
all
looking
right.
forward to the hats. The mod hats are going to be a sweet addition. We'll be repping. We'll be walking around with those, and same with the hoodies and stuff. So, uh, anyways, let's quick plug the socials here. If you guys want to take part in watching some reels, some posts that we put up, we got the Muskies on Tap Instagram page. We
new
got
segment.
Yep. I was getting there. We got a new segment every I believe Monday. We're gonna be tossing out the bait of the week. Baits that we really enjoy throwing. Maybe it might be a bait that we're looking forward to throwing. Maybe we never have. Maybe it's one that we want to get back into, just something like that. So we already got some good feedback on the first one. We put out the 7-9 trigger from Muskie Mayhem in good time right after the interview with Austin Wiggerman. He kind of reminded us how much we really love that bait.
Yeah, don't be afraid to tell a friend. Go follow the page, listen to the pod. If you just stumble across us in the past few weeks, we've definitely picked up a few new followers. So spread the word. But yeah, we'll be continuing to post the content on the page. We're going to try to do our best here to up our game on Instagram. It's kind of all still new to us. So we're trying to brainstorm some ideas on things to do, what to post. I know Gus has got a lot in the arsenal video wise from last year that we'll be cooking up here shortly. But Brian and I will be trying to do some behind the scenes brainstorming on some different things that we can throw up there. So appreciate everyone that has followed along, podcast, Instagram, bought
Yeah.
merch, all that good stuff. We can't thank you enough, and all the messages. That's Brian and I on the IG. So if you are asking guide specific stuff, I would say to probably direct those questions or things to Gus's Instagram, which I'm sure he'll give out here shortly. But if you just kind of want to chop it up about the pod or whatever, be happy to do that, and like to get back to everybody. And all the messages mean a lot. So appreciate it all.
Yep. We appreciate all the listeners. And if you're still sticking around here at this point, one more favor that we'd like to ask you, if you could go on whatever streaming platform you're on and give us a rate. We'd love a review on the podcast. That would mean a lot. I think on Spotify, you can like swipe up and leave comments. We always enjoy reading those. We've had quite a few from older podcasts. Those are fun to read as well. So with that being said, I got my own Instagram account, Suggs Fishing, and Facebook, Suggs Fishing Guide Service. If you want to book a trip, get a hold of me on one of those socials or my website, www.suggsfishing.com. Really looking forward to this 2024 season, and it's gonna be a good one. I just can't say enough good things, even though it's still January, February of this year, but we're really looking forward to it. So we'll wrap this one up here tonight. Brian, you want to take us away? Got an outro for us here?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the time is coming. We already know who's going to be in the big game. The Chiefs and the 49ers. Who gives a fuck? What about this Super Bowl? Let's see the third place game, Lions, Ravens. We got to get that thing aired somewhere because nobody wants to see Taylor Swift all freaking night. Thank you guys for listening to this episode. Let's hope for some colder weather ahead. Everybody get out there on the lake this winter. Peace.